Perhaps you are a leader and you are starting to notice that office politics is playing a major role in terms of how you are operating and functioning in a role as a leader. If you have found this, then I'm going to share with you 3 questions that you will want to ask yourself to help you navigate office politics. Now, this is a Q&A, and I typically do these on Friday evenings. Therefore, if you are watching this video on the replay, you're more than welcome to ask any questions as it relates to office politics. Perhaps you're going through something specific in your role or in your business or in your organization. Ask me in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to give you some insight to help you navigate this challenging topic as it comes up. Now, we're going to talk about overall one guiding insight that I have to share with you as it relates to office politics. And then I'm going to share with you 3 questions so that by the end of this video, when you are stepping into your role the next day or the next week or etc., you are taking some time to think about, what did Dr. Jacinta say for those 3 questions? Let me try to find these pieces of information out. So you definitely want to get a pen and pencil for the live today. If you are new to me, welcome. And if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to gain an unfair competitive advantage as it relates to how you communicate under pressure in those very high stakes situations as a leader. If you happen to be at a point where you know the way that you're communicating is not the way you want it to be, perhaps you're freezing in the middle of a conversation, maybe you found yourself in a situation where you are having a hard time defending yourself when someone gives you a bit of pushback, then you absolutely want to go to exciteexcellence.org, sign up for an executive strategy session so that you and I can have a conversation to help you develop how to develop a plan to overcome those challenges. Now, when it comes to office politics, there is one guiding principle I need to share with you all. How many of you like office politics? How many? Probably not that many. You could put yes or no in the chat. But office politics, unfortunately, is something that you will experience at some point in your career. Now, I know you may be saying, oh my gosh, I hate office politics. I don't want to deal with it. Why do I have to deal with it? I'm just letting you know this is a part of the game. And this is exactly, what happens when you are elevating yourself, and especially when you're in a role as a leader. Office politics is something that you are going to have to deal with. Now, I want to say hello to those of you watching the live today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And have you ever dealt with office politics before? Have you? Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it today. I mentioned to you that office politics is something that you will end up encountering. I know that may not be what you want to hear at the very beginning of our time together today, but yes, you will encounter office politics. But the key is, how do you navigate them? Answering those 3 questions that I mentioned to you earlier, that I'm going to mention to you, will help you tremendously. I want to say hello to Robert Steve H5K. Hello, Robert. How you doing today? Welcome. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. And let me know what questions you have specifically as it relates to navigating office politics. Now, one of the things that comes up, and one of the questions I want to share with you specifically as it relates to office politics, is the following. So I want to say hello to Ravinder 5498. Hope you're doing well today. Hope you all are doing great. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today. And let's talk about office politics. I appreciate the flowers here. There's a couple questions that I want to ask you. And I want you to get a pen and paper. If you're navigating office politics or you're dealing with that drama, there's just some questions you need to ask yourself so that you can get some information specifically. So give me just one moment. My daughter just came in just to hijack my life. Give me just 1 second. I'm sorry about that. Of course, my daughter comes in when I'm recording. Okay, let me go back into this. Robert Steve says, not interested in government politics. I'm Navajo and we have our own government, but only federal laws are allowed. Well, in this situation, so appreciate you mentioning that, Robert. One of the things that office politics, it comes up not only in the government, it's not necessarily government in terms of politics where most of the time people think that it's politics, but it's more so what happens in the dynamics of any organization, business, federation, or etc. So it's not only just allocated to the government. These type of situations happen all the time. I've been a C-suite executive and a director for the past 20 years, and Robert, I'll tell you that I have dealt with office politics, even though I'm not in the governmental sector. I want to say hello to Gabby. I'm going to say Gabby Shears, hopefully. Hello, welcome, welcome. So these are 3 questions that you want to ask yourself if, by chance, you are encountering office politics or you see that this is happening. Now, office politics doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Politics itself does have a negative connotation that is associated with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad. It's a matter of you learning how do you navigate the room in these situations. So here are the 3 questions I want you to ask yourself, and I'll go into some detail on them in a moment. But if you have any questions as it relates to office politics, maybe there's something that you're navigating in your current role, then let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer it for you. Number one of the questions you want to ask yourself when you're experiencing this is the following. Who are the decision makers? Now, you may be wondering, well, this is an obvious question, but when you're dealing with office politics or different dynamics that happen specifically in a role, then you want to keep in mind that you need to know who the decision makers are. I will share with you over my past 20 years being in senior executive roles that one of the main challenges that I did not fully grasp initially was this concept of who the decision makers are. I knew about it when I was a director, but I did not truly gain a deep appreciation of it until I became a C-suite executive. For those of you who may not know what C-suite executives are, these are going to be the individuals in your organization, your businesses. These are the individuals that are typically at the highest level of leadership as it relates to the organization. These are your chief executive officers, your chief medical officers, your chief financial officers, your chief information officers, your chief dealing officers like I was, and etc. So there's a lot of different individuals that will come up in that category. But one of the reasons why I say you need to know who the decision makers are, so that if you have a project, a situation, or something that is going on, you'll want to know who are the people that are actually going to make that decision, and make sure you have some time with them to understand what their perspective is on this particular project or issue, so that you can be able to provide some insight in terms of how you can potentially improve the project or the situation by your specific method that you want to follow. So knowing who the decision makers are will be very important if you're trying to navigate office politics. As I mentioned, don't wait until I gained appreciation of it. It was much later in my career, and it has changed the way that I think about conflict and situations that come up, because previously I would not have asked who is in charge, who is the manager of the situation, unless I had an appreciation of this. Beforehand, I probably would not have asked those questions, but now when I have a situation, it doesn't matter if it's with business or it's with personal, I will immediately, instantly say who's in charge. That is my perspective as a C-suite. Make sure you're communicating with the people that are actually making the decisions, because those are the individuals that will give you some insight in terms of what's going on in your organization. Now I'm going to go into my second question. The second question that I have for you that you want to write down or you want to ask about when you feel like you're dealing with office politics and you're trying to figure out, well, how exactly am I going to navigate this, is probably one of the most important questions I'm going to share with you today. And that is who are the influencers? Now, before you click off the video, let me explain. The people that make the decisions are very important, because those are the people that will have the final say in whatever the issue is. However, the people that are the influencers, those are those are the individuals that you have to pay very close attention to. How many of you have been in situations where you know there's some person that makes the decisions, but there is an influencer in the background? How many of you have been in situations like that? I personally have. And I did not appreciate this until later on in my career, which is the reason why I'm telling you it is important to think about these questions and start gaining answers to them to help you navigate office politics and the dynamics that happen in an organization. Why? Because there are the decision makers, and you want to be the person that knows who the decision makers are so that you can directly communicate with them. But there are always people, there's always going to be one person or someone else that has some type of influence on the decision maker. Why do you need to know who those people are? Because if you know who those individuals are, then you can place yourself in a better position to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to complete, because you know that this person typically speaks to this individual or this decision maker often, or they have a pretty good relationship, which is something we'll talk about if we have some time in terms of relationships. I found this happen. I'll give you an example. This is something that actually happened to me and how I developed a deep appreciation for who are the influencers. When I was in a senior executive role, I had direct communication with a decision maker, one of our big decision makers. And typically we had a very good relationship. We had great conversations and we were able to get a lot of things accomplished. However, I learned that there was an influencer and that there was a couple of people that tended to influence this person's decision. Now, you may be wondering, well, how did you figure that out? This is where you learn how to read people. And I talk about this a lot on my channel. There's several videos here that talk about how to read people. And if you take a look at my playlist here specifically, it will give you some insight in terms of how do you go about reading people. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on that today, but just know that there are ways you can read people, and being the person that can listen to a conversation, actively listen to a conversation, will provide you with a lot of insight, a lot more than what you think you may be able to gain. So continuing with my story, I had a specific project that was a larger project, and it was a bit of a challenge to try to persuade the decision maker to move forward with it. Even though we had a good relationship, I knew this person is one of the key decision makers, but I could not get this person to buy into my idea. I knew one of the decision makers had an influencer, and the influencer did not make the decision. They were just the influencer of the person that makes the decision. And I had a conversation with them about the project, what was going on with it, what are some of the challenges that are happening, how this project will improve the organization and the business and revenue and etc. And lo and behold, there was a conversation where in a public setting, the decision maker said, okay, we'll go ahead and go forward with the project. Why is that? The influencer had a conversation with the decision maker that helped me be able to get this project secured. This is the reason why knowing who the influencers are very important. If you want to learn more about this, let me know in the comments below. And if you're navigating something specifically, contact me at exciteexcellence.org and we'll talk about your situation specifically. This helped me out tremendously. And I did not know this until later in my career, which is the reason why I'm sharing this secret with you now. There are people that are going to influence the decision makers. You can listen very carefully to what's being said and what's not being said to determine exactly who those individuals are. Now I'm going to go into my third question that you want to ask yourself, and then I'll go into one more. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But the third question you want to ask yourself if you are navigating office politics is the question of who are the individuals that tend to gossip in your department, in your organization, in your business, or etc. Now you may be wondering, what do the people that gossip have anything to do with office politics? Well, the individuals that gossip are the individuals that tend to keep things going. They are the people that gossip. They talk about things constantly to the point where it's not relevant, but they will continue to talk about it. Now, as it relates to office politics, you may be wondering, well, why are they important? let me share with you why they're important. But before I do that, let me know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to interact with someone that tends to gossip a lot. Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Why you want to know who the gossipers are is because you need to stay far away from them. Did I say far? Far away from them. Why? Because if you are someone that tends to talk a lot, which we talk about this on the channel, especially as it relates to high stakes, high pressure situations, if you happen to be a person that talks a lot, the gossipers are going to take some of the information that you are saying, even though you may not have said what they claim that you said directly, they may take portions of it and create their own sound bites and be the person that says and whispers that information to somebody else. Oh, I know she did this, she said that, he said this, and etc. You want to know who the gossipers are. Now, sometimes it might be very difficult to figure out who the gossipers are, but I'll tell you that it may not be as hard as you think. As long as you start learning how to read people, and if you're struggling with this, you need to subscribe to the channel for sure. But as long as you learn how to start reading people, you will be able to pick up on these topics and these situations, because a lot of times people will not say what they really want to say, but often they are, one, not subscribed to this channel, two, they have not been trained in high stakes communication, and three, they've not been trained to read people, and therefore they will act in a way that does not conceal what they're trying to say. They just say what they're going to say. And if you listen very closely, you'll be able to pick up, oh, I hear them constantly talking about other people. That's one cue. If you're not sure who the gossipers are, you'll find that they tend to talk about people a lot. They'll talk about Mary, they'll talk about John, they'll talk about Mac, they'll talk about Kim. They will talk about anybody as much as they can. They will continue to talk about people. So when you hear someone that constantly talks about people, and it may not necessarily be in the most positive light, it may be in a more negative light, those individuals are going to be your gossipers that you want to be mindful of and to stay away from, because they're the people that will spread your personal business, or they will spread information about you that may not be accurate to some of the people who are the influencers. The influencers will spread that information to the decision maker, and the next time when you're trying to plan for a project or have a direct communication with the influencer or with the decision maker, it may not go the way that you want it to go, because the gossiper has been the person that has already tainted or painted a picture of you that may not be as positive as you would like for it to be. Therefore, stay away from the gossipers. Stay away from people that gossip quite a bit. Be very, very careful of them. They will cause you problems. Now, I mentioned to you I was going to share your bonus specifically, but I want to know from those of you watching, what part of the big, beautiful world are you watching from today? And have you ever had to deal with office politics? Put it in the comments below and let me know if you have any questions about it specifically, so I can support you any way that I can on your journey. Now, I mentioned earlier about relationships, and relationships are very important as it relates to office politics. Now, we talked about 3 questions. These are 3 questions that will give you a good start in terms of how to navigate office politics. There's a lot more that I can share with you. That's why you contact me and work with me directly, so that I can help you in this situation, so that you don't feel like you're being overlooked, challenged, and etc. in your roles. The 3 questions that you want to gather specifically as it relates to office politics to start navigating them are: 1, who are the decision makers? Number 2, make sure you take some time to find out who are their influencers, who are the individuals influencing the decision makers. And number 3, find out who are the people that tend to gossip a lot. Those 3 questions will give you some answers. So take some time today, when you have a moment, get a pen, get a paper, and write down the answers that you know of for those questions. Now, if there are some questions that you do not have the answers to, or your paper is blank, then you'll need to start learning how to read the room and pay a bit more of a closer attention to how people are communicating, and then you'll start figuring out that information. Now, going back to relationships, relationships are important. Another part of office politics that we deal with, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that you will navigate regardless of what role you are in, regardless of what organization you are in, regardless of your business, if you're building a business. These are things that you deal with. These are situations that will come up. It's just a matter of how do you navigate them when they come up. Now, in terms of relationships, there are going to be situations, and this is more so for people that are perhaps in larger organizations, but these are situations that will come up. You may find that there are a group of people that like each other, that tend to work very well with each other. But there are a group of people that don't work well with each other. They're constantly butting heads, as we say. They are in constant disagreement. They do not like each other, or etc. You may find a group of people that they like working with some people, but then they sometimes don't. They don't necessarily completely shut them down, and they're not at a place where they are in constant discourse with another group, but they would prefer not to work with them if they didn't have to. Now, those are situations you will experience. Why do I mention that? Because when it comes to office politics and navigating office politics, it will be very helpful for you to have some backstory, some information as it relates to these dynamics that happen sometimes in office situations. For example, if you are new to a role as an executive or as a director, you may find yourself not knowing anything. You have no idea what the backstory is, what happened to this project that occurred years ago, why do these individuals not like working with each other, and etc. You may not have the answers to any of those questions, which is the reason why it's critically important for you to find that information as quickly as you can. You'll have to find out some information from people that you are interacting with, aspects of an individual's verbal and nonverbal way they communicate that will give you cues that something is not quite right. There may be some issues there. All of those things will help you if you are new in a role, being able to read people, especially when you do not have a solid backstory. Now, what happens oftentimes is that you'll develop a relationship with some individuals that know a bit more about the backstory, and they may be willing to tell you some of it. But keep in mind, if they tell you information, listen. That's the most important thing you have to do is listen. You don't necessarily need to add commentary. You don't necessarily need to say, oh, I can't believe that happened, or I know I would have done things differently. You don't need to do all that. You just need to listen and take that information as information. Therefore, when a project comes up or a event is planned or whatever the case may be is occurring, that you know the full scope of what's going on in terms of the office, in terms of the organization, in terms of the business, which groups specifically enjoy working with each other, which groups struggle with working with each other, who are the decision makers, who are the influences, who are the individuals that gossip so that you can stay away with them. That, friends, is how you start to navigate office politics. Now, I know a lot of times on YouTube, people will share with you different types of strategies and etc. And unless you have been in those situations where maybe you've been a C-suite executive like myself and you've been in it and you know what it's like and you know how this situation can make or break your career and your growth and your business, you may get information off of YouTube that is not accurate. It's not accurate. It's more of the fluff. It is more of the 10,000, 13,000 foot view of how office politics work. But on this channel, we talk about real situations and real strategies. And what I'm sharing with you here, friends, is over 20 years of me being in those similar type of situations and understanding that office politics does not have to be bad. I know there was a comment mentioned earlier about not interested in government politics by Robert, and that's okay. But it doesn't have to be bad. It's just a matter of knowing what's going on and understanding exactly the dynamics that are happening in your organization or in your business, because those dynamics, they will be there regardless of what sector of the business or what industry you are in. There's always some form of office politics that are going on. But now you have a couple questions that can help you to start learning how can you start navigating these situations when they come up. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot that I have here on this channel to support you if you are at that point where you are in those more high stakes situations and you need to communicate in a great way under pressure. Maybe you're on the media a lot more. Perhaps you are going to be on the news. You're going to be in a very highly visible situation. That is why you reach out to me directly for support. There's only but so much I can do here on YouTube. But I will say this, I do have over 1,100 videos here on this channel that are dedicated to high stakes, high pressure communication for leaders. Women in leadership benefit from my information tremendously. Men in leadership benefit from my information as well. And I know you'll find something here. You'll find some value, you'll find some insights. You'll find something that you will be able to start implementing that same day, depending on what video you watch, to help you start communicating more confidently and concisely under pressure. Now, there's a couple videos I would recommend for you to start off with specifically. Look at my live tab. That has a lot of great information there. There are a couple of playlists that are there also. The playlist that talks about executive presence is a great one for this particular topic. The playlist that talks about high stakes communication fundamentals will be very important for you also. Look for any videos that talk about eye contact, controlling your emotions under pressure, your tone of voice, body language, silence in a conversation. Those are great videos to give you a good place to start as it relates to developing yourself as someone that can communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. I appreciate you all so much for being a part of this amazing journey. We are growing very quickly as it relates to the channel. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. The last time I checked earlier today, we are at 941, which is a tremendous milestone. And I just appreciate all of my amazing subscribers for being a part of this journey. You all make everything so much fun in my life, especially when I'm interacting with you all here on YouTube. I do want to say that this is a milestone that I personally am not taking lightly. Only 10% of content creators here on YouTube actually reach 1,000 subscribers. Can you believe that? And we're right there knocking at the door of it right now. So I appreciate you so much. Feel free to share this information to your friends or your colleagues or your loved ones that are at a place where you know they can communicate better, and they can definitely communicate and be that person that has that unfair competitive advantage when they're trying to communicate under pressure. Because most people, they don't know how to communicate this way, which is the reason why I'm here. This is the reason why my mission is to build the largest high-stakes communication content library for leaders on planet Earth. And having your insight, your feedback, and some of the things that you are asking questions about and scenarios helps us to build this massive library that we're going to have here on YouTube. Take a look at a couple of the videos on the playlist. They will give you some insight for you to be able to think about things differently. And stay tuned for a few other types of videos on the channel. There will be videos that will be a bit different from our lives, and I truly need your honest feedback in terms of if you like these videos or not. You'll see me recording a bit more from my webcam and doing more presentation style type content and reaction content. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'm here to support you, and I want to help you be able to navigate these challenging situations regardless of where you are in the world today. I want to say hello to Camilla. Hello, hope you're doing well today. But I want to make sure I'm at a place where I can help you to navigate these challenging situations when they come up. So when you're watching any of the videos on my channel, whether it's on my playlist or whether it is going to be on any of my live videos or older pre-recorded videos, let me know what you're dealing with, and please come to me for the hard situations. The challenging situations that you don't want to talk to anybody about, or you're just not sure how to navigate professionally as a leader, put them in the comments on any of the videos, and I will do a video just for you answering the question and give you a shout out in the live as well to give you some insight to help you navigate whatever it is that you are dealing with. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. I hope that this information has provided you with some great ways to get started on navigating office politics. But I want to know from you, what question out of the 3 I shared with you was your favorite? Which one was your favorite? Which one was your favorite question that you know you need to take some